How long do you spend editing? I mean, how much time does that take?
A good bit.
I bet. That's what I
It's a
think.
couple
It's
hours.
way longer than people think it is.
It depends on how long the interview
Right.
was and how the interviewee was.
Right.
So the harder the interview, the more time you spend, and it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Right.
But then you just work with what you have.
Right.
But the longer ones, they take time because you have to listen to it, and then if you
Right.
catch something or adjust something, or because you also want to elevate the other person too,
Sure,
and make
yeah,
sure
yeah.
that they sound good,
Right.
and all that good stuff. So anyway, it just takes time.
Yep.
Jeri, thank you so much for being on today's show. I am so excited to share your story. I can't wait for our listeners to really learn more about what it took you to get where you are today.
Yeah.
And before we dive into all of the details of Queen's Reward, I would love for you to share your story and kind of just tell us about your background, where you were born, what your hometown is, what you did, after school, and kind of your transition and journey to where you are today.
Well, I am the third of 4 girls in my family. I have wonderful parents. Grew up in a happy home. I was always the child who was smiling and happy and not terribly responsible. So when my younger sister and I would go to the movies or to the mall, Mom and Daddy would give her the money because they knew by the time it was gone, I'd be like, oh, where did I put that down? So, but it was great. We grew up in South Alabama until I was about 16. And when I was 16, my parents moved to Columbus, Mississippi. That's how we wound up in North Mississippi. They were house parents at Palmer Home for Children in Columbus the whole time I was in high school and college, which was that was life changing. It was wonderful. My 2 older sisters were already out of the house. They had already gone off to college, and so it was just my parents and myself and my younger sister that went to Palmer. But it was interesting because at 16 years old, my world shifted in a positive way, but in a somewhat difficult way because Mom and Daddy's focus was on me and my little sister, and then all of a sudden we go to Palmer and it was my mom, my dad, me, and my sister's focus on these children that needed us. So they were house parents. We had baby cottage, so we had all preschool age kids. Wow. They were brave. I didn't realize.
Wow.
Brave or crazy, I'm not sure which one, maybe a little bit of both, but it was wonderful. And so we were there all the way until I graduated from high school. I was a band geek, did music, drama, just anything that I could be in front of people. That was always fun. Went to school at Mississippi State, got a degree in elementary education, and after college was married and wound up not using that degree because I had babies and I was blessed to be able to stay home with them. And so I was just a stay-at-home mom. Not just, it was a lot. I was a stay-at-home mom, but I didn't have a big career life. Went until, 1999, 90, or maybe 2000, I wound up going through a divorce and found myself a single mom with 3 babies. I had one that was, they were 7, 5, and 2 when all that happened. So and I had not worked. So that was kind of a moment. That was definitely a moment that totally changed my perception of myself more than anything else. I didn't realize I was as tough as I was. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
heard that for some other women that we have interviewed, and that's one thing they shared as well.
You just realize I can do a lot more than I think I can. And anyway, so that was a very much a time of growth. It was difficult and hard, but the lessons learned were incredibly valuable. I tell people all the time, sometimes God's biggest blessings come in painful packages.
Yeah.
And He uses those moments to really teach us about Himself and about us, which was, it was very important, very pivotal point in my life. And I think the life of my children, watching all of that happen. So anyway, wound up using after that my education degree because had to have a job, right? Single mom. So,
Yes.
But it was wonderful. I jumped into the world of education, started teaching, was surrounded by amazing women and support group, and that was a wonderful career. I loved it. Wound up meeting my current husband a few years after that. We're married. We have a little girl. My first three were boys, so he gave me my little girl, which was
Oh,
wonderful, is wonderful. And so that's kind of where my journey, we wound up here in North Mississippi. I kind of stayed. By the time we got to Columbus, I lived in Memphis and Tupelo and kind of all around North Mississippi area. But this is kind of where we landed, and it's just been a wild ride, but a good one.
amazing. Okay, so you were teaching, you met your now husband, you have a little girl, and so now tell us about the transition to Queen's Reward.
Well, I was teaching kindergarten and first grade, which was fun but challenging. So we started making alcohol at home, was how that kind of worked out. And I tell people that jokingly. We did. It's not a lie. It's true. But it was a hobby, actually, that we had started. And we were using kits to get started. You can buy these kits that have the juice and all the ingredients and all the steps to make wine. So we had made several kits and made this wine, and we thought we were getting good at this, so we were going to try to do this all by ourselves. Well, the problem is we don't grow really great wine grapes in Mississippi, and what we do grow, I didn't have. So I was searching the internet and found a recipe to make wine with honey, and I'm like, hey, I can get honey. We got lots of great honey around here. So made our first batch. I didn't know. By the time I had made this first batch, I had made the connection that wine made with honey was mead. I didn't search for mead. I'd kind of stumbled upon it, I guess. So we made this first batch. It was okay. Didn't know if we had done a good job or a bad job. I'd never tasted it before. So I go to the liquor store to buy some and realize there's none. You couldn't buy mead in Mississippi at all at that time. So that was when the thought crossed our minds, hey, there's an opportunity here. Of course, the problem is there no mead in Mississippi because the supply chain had dwindled, or is there no meat in Mississippi because nobody in Mississippi wants it? Now, we didn't have the answer to that one, so but we just kind of kept playing with our recipes, and that idea was in the back of our head. The other struggle, the flip side of this, I was teaching, was loving that, but at this point in my life, my 50th birthday was on the horizon, right? So, but because I had been able to stay home with my children when they were little, which is a blessing, it also meant that here I am teaching, heading into my 50th birthday, and I have 20 years before I get to retire. And so I'm like, I don't think I can do this till I'm 70. I love these babies, but one of us isn't going to survive this, and there's more of them than there are of me. So this is not looking good. So my husband and I were just having lots of conversations about what do we want to do? What do I want to do? I had gotten certified in some different areas of education, thinking those might be easier to do as I get older, but wasn't really passionate about those. They were okay, something I could do. So one night we're sitting on the couch and Jeff just says, so Jeri, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would it be? And I said, I want to open the first meadery in Mississippi. Now, I was not lying. Just like I tell you, I want a house in the Bahamas, I'm not getting a house in the Bahamas, right? I wasn't lying. I'm not lying when I tell you that, but I didn't really think we would do it. I said that kind of as a dream. And so the next thing I know, he starts filling out paperwork. And I was like, how sweet, right? That's sweet. That's so sweet. He's filling out this paperwork, but it's not really going to happen. It's just because, oh my word, mountains of paperwork. I will be completely transparent and tell you if it had been left up to me, I'd still be teaching because all of that paperwork was so intimidating. And I think it was the federal government's paperwork. I think that's intentional on their part to weed people out. It would have been very effective with me. My husband, though, in his career, he does lots of government contract work. He's used to this government paperwork. And he's like, what is the big deal? You just do it a little at a time. So he just kind of kept plowing through, and I was doing my thing and would jump in and help when necessary. And we did run into some hurdles. And at each hurdle, I would think, okay, well, that was fun. What a fun idea. But we would kind of keep working until we found a way through. There was no pressure. There was no intensity to it, really, just because it was almost like a pipe dream. We were just going to see what happened. So we just kind of kept going. And one day, I looked up and said, we're really going to do this, aren't we? He said, I think we are. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we started that journey of paperwork and stuff probably in early 2016, maybe late 2015, finally opened here in 2018. So it was a time process. So
and you're working during this entire
this whole time. I'm still teaching
This is like
school.
your side gig
Exactly,
for now.
and
Like,
his. And
okay.
so even the space that we're in, we renovated this. We were up here nights and weekends doing most of the work ourselves just to save money.
Because his business was here at the time and they outgrew it.
Well,
correct?
he was using this back
The
space
back
that we
space.
use for
Okay.
production now just as storage, and that's kind of how he found this. But anyway, so we did most of that work. And the plan when we opened, because again, we weren't sure. We felt like we had a good product. We had sent what we were making into some different international and competitions and gotten some really good feedback, had won some awards. So we knew we had a good product. We didn't know if it was going to be something that took off in our community and in our state. That's what we felt like it was, obviously, or we wouldn't have done it, but we had no guarantees. There's always, I mean, you can study and you can do your research, but you're always going to have some risks. So that was kind of where ours was. The way we were going to minimize that risk was I was going to continue working. We were going to open the meadery on Thursday nights, Friday nights, and Saturdays. And once it really got rolling and going good, then I would retire from teaching and let this be my full-time job. That was the plan. So we opened in May of 2018 here. The school got out. The very next weekend we opened. So our anniversary is the last weekend in May, which is when everybody gets out of school. So we opened. Everything was great. We were very, very busy. And so we're going through the summer. Things are super busy. We're having a blast. I'm having a blast. I'm not sure if everybody else was, but I was having a blast. And it quickly became obvious we got to make some decisions here because this is so busy. I can't do this, even if it's just 3 days a week. I can't do this and teach and teach like and give it the attention it needs. So we're having this discussion and the summer's going along and I'm kind of like, if there's a possibility I'm not going to go back, I have to let my principal know because she's got to have a classroom for this teacher. But you give up that classroom and you don't change your mind and go back. Somebody else, I mean, it was a big decision and we're having these discussions and Jeff finally looks at me, my husband, and he says, Jeri, you're either all in or you're not. Mm-hmm. You got to make a decision. Wow. And I was like, okay, but that means we're all in on your paycheck. And you know that, right? And so he's like, nope, if we're going to do it, you can't do it halfway. So we just jumped. And I called my principal, told her we were going to do this. So the scary part was we had a great reception. We had lots of people coming in our doors. What we didn't know is, are they going to come back? I mean, they're here because they're curious. They want to see what's going on, which is awesome. But are we going to have those repeat customers? And so you just didn't, after just 2.5 months, you didn't really know that. You just kind of had to take that chance. So, honey, it has been I tell people this is the most terrifying fun I have ever had. It has been a wild, wild ride. But it's been great. And we've had ups and downs, obviously, as far as, your sales go. And of course, now that we've been doing it long enough, you realize, okay, that's kind of a secular, is that the right word? Mm-hmm. Thing. So during the course of the year, there's going to be months that are busier and not so busy just because of what else is happening in people's world. You didn't know that first year. Every time things would dip, you go, oh no, what are we doing? So, but no, it's been great. It's been such a learning experience. Wow. I mean, I still stop and go, I can't believe we're really doing this. Do you ever have that moment in your life where you stop and go, holy cow, look at this. Yeah. This is like really happening. So,
yeah. And to build off of that, I am so curious. In a way, this is something you stumbled into.
Right.
Because you were exploring other career possibilities of what you could do.
Right.
Because you were looking at it from a long-term. Like, did you ever think you would be a business owner?
Oh, my word. No, absolutely not. In my Southern Baptist family, who would have ever thought I'd be making alcohol? Holy cow.
Yeah.
Anyway, not in a bazillion years. So part of this story, though, I have to give credit where credit is due. My husband is a serial entrepreneur. He has opened lots of businesses. So he's not, I won't say, he's cautious and he's calculated in his decisions, but he's done this enough that he's not scared of these decisions. He knows what research, and so he's been huge. That's been huge for me, just to have that support, someone to show me, no, this is where we need to look. These are the things we need to look at. These are the numbers we need to look at. This shows you that you're making good decisions, because my education and my entire background has been in the world of education. So I went to school, I went to college, I had children, they went to school, I taught school. Business was never I worked at a sporting goods store in high school, you know what I mean? But I had no experience in this world. So this whole experience as far as the business goes has been completely new concept. Just even as something as simple as when we first opened, we would go to lunch. My husband and I would go to lunch, and I'd be like, I haven't opened one ketchup packet. People do this. They're like, it was really a new world, which seems silly, but I'd never really been in that world. And so, so much to learn. And I had no idea how much fun it was, how much I would enjoy. I always looked at it from the outside going, oh my gosh, that looks so boring. It's so not boring.
Yeah.
I have had so much fun learning this and still learning, constantly listening to podcasts and reading books and asking questions and just observing. And it's just fascinating.
Thank you for that, Jeri. So one of the things that I am very outspoken about in our women entrepreneurs group is the fact that you don't know where life is going to take you.
Right, that's for sure.
I believe that you are the perfect example of that.
Right.
Because, so many of us, we don't know where our experiences, our choices, our outcomes will take us. And sometimes the unexpected happens.
Yes.
And so you may, and in your case, you may not even be thinking about a business. You just know that, at that time, you just knew you were looking for something different, and you never know how your life is going to pivot. But with that being said, before you came to this realization, your experiences in other facets of your life, do you think they help you now? Like, have they contributed to your skill set or how you do business now in this entrepreneurial world?
I think, yeah. I don't see how they couldn't, right?
Yeah.
All of your experiences culminate into where you are right now. Learning to properly manage a classroom is valuable. Now, my employees aren't motivated by a Skittle like a 5-year-old is. So I've had to learn other ways to motivate people, and they don't go to timeout. So just for the record, but the principles are the same. You want to do it in a positive way, not constantly fussing. You want, those sorts of things are very much the same. And I think a big part of, I have 3 children who are grown and one that is in high school. My daughter's in high school now, and I tell them and students all the time, I don't know if other people struggle as much with this, but this has always been something that I've struggled with. It is so frightening to me and has always been scary to me to have to make a big decision, even little decisions. I jokingly say it takes me 5 minutes to pick out a candy bar. How am I supposed to know at 20 years old in college what I want to do with the rest of my life? That is so intimidating. But what I've learned is I don't really know many adults that haven't reinvented themselves at least once because of something they've chosen to do or because of circumstances that were outside of their control. But the point is, your path is not set. You get to choose. And sometimes you make great choices and sometimes the choices aren't so great, but you can always pivot. So don't be paralyzed. I was always, and I still struggle and have to mentally fight this, don't be paralyzed by a decision because one decision can lead to a lot of others. It's not something that is set in stone that you can't ever reverse. Very few decisions in your life are not reversible. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Or something that you can't pivot from. So don't let that paralyze you. Is kind of where I've gotten. And I have no idea what question you just asked me. I'm just on a tangent. But I know what you were asking. You were about how my experiences had developed. Another thing I think that's important with that is you got to know who you are. And by that, I mean, what are your gifts and what are not your gifts? Because we don't all have it all. One of my gifts is I get very excited and passionate about what I do. And this I am excited and passionate about, but I was the same way with teaching. That's just kind of how God made me. And you need a passion for what you're doing. But there's other things I'm not great at, and I know those aren't my gifts. You do not want me to be an accountant for you. It would be bad. It's not that I can't do math, but that is not where my gifts are. So thankfully, there are other people in my world that is their gift. So I guess my point is, don't deceive yourself into thinking you've got to have it all because you're just setting yourself up for failure, because I hate to pop your bubble, you're not gonna have it all. None of us do. And it is okay. Be wise enough to figure out what you are good at, embrace those, and then be smart enough to surround yourself with people that are good at the things you're not good at. Don't be intimidated or threatened by that. Embrace that, because when you've got those people surrounding you, oh my gosh, you can accomplish so much more. And they're having a ball doing what they're good at with what you hate. And I'm having a ball doing what I'm good at with that they would hate to do. And so together, we're all having fun and we're actually all moving forward. So I think, especially as women, we feel like we got to do it all, right?
That's right.
We have to we got to keep all the balls in the air, but you can't. And it's okay. And give yourself permission to know it's not going to happen, and it is okay. But find those people, seek those people out. That have those gifts, and lean on them, and it's okay to do that.
Absolutely. I want to touch on that and just expand on it. I agree. I have my own experiences, and if you are a lady who is in that boat right now, just get some help. And there is no amount of money that you think a lot of us think that we're wasting resources, or we're like, we don't have the money. I promise you it's worth it.
Yes.
It's the same thing with like an attorney and a tax individual. You just brought up those examples. I know for me personally, I try to handle it all with all of our side businesses, and it is not my cup of tea, just like yours.
Right.
And why would I do that?
Right.
And now I happily write that check, and I don't worry about it. And I have their expertise.
Exactly.
And that is the beautiful thing of building teams. And if you have never heard of Strength Finder, I encourage you to look into that. That is a tool that allows you to assess and figure out what are your strengths, and then you build a team with individuals with those strengths, because you really don't want a team with a bunch of individuals who are just like you with the same strengths.
Exactly.
You want a very diverse and unique and different team with ladies or individuals on your team who have different strengths that can actually complement you. And that makes a stronger team, because things that overwhelm you or stress you out or that you hate doing, someone else loves to do those things.
Right.
So give it to them.
Absolutely.
So I love that, Jeri.
Yes.
That is wonderful. With that being said, let's pivot to, can you think of a particularly challenging moment in your journey to success? You've already mentioned one today. You're welcome to expand on it, or if there's another particularly challenging moment in your life that had changed you, that you could share with our listeners.
Well, just this whole process has probably been, other than going through a divorce and becoming a single mom, and learning that I really can do more than I think I can. I was just here's the truth. The way that I am wired, the way God made me, I am very happy and very comfortable being a follower. A lot of people aren't that way, but if I have somebody that I feel like I can trust, I am happy to be the helper. That works for me. So being forced in that situation to be the one in the lead was not a comfortable spot for me. And I find the same thing here a lot of times. Being forced to be the one in the lead to make the decisions is a lot of times outside of my comfort zone, because I am like I said, I am very content to be the one to jump behind somebody and be the biggest supporter you've ever had, but don't put me out front. So I have to work with that. But I think as far as the business goes, probably our biggest challenge would have been COVID. I think probably most people would say that, we were only 2 years old. And now the blessing that I had in that was the way that my business is structured. We make alcohol, we make wine from honey. And it's almost like there's two businesses in one. So I have my tasting room. I have our presence here in Tupelo with our facility and with people coming in and out, and the green space and the events and things that we do here. This is a money-making part of my business. But there's another whole side of it with the production and distribution through the ABC to liquor stores and restaurants. So the liquor store restaurant side of things really it altered a little with the restaurants, but not so much with liquor stores, because liquor stores were kind of thriving. But we were only 2 years old, so a lot of people didn't know about it. So we had that, but it wasn't enough to sustain, right? So that was a blessing that a lot of businesses didn't even have that, right? Well, just figuring out how to pivot and jump in, and what we wound up doing was purchasing a still, and we started making hand sanitizer. And the funny thing was, we had been thinking about purchasing a still anyway, because we thought, how cool would it be to have a distilled product that starts with honey, that would be awesome. There's no legal definition for what that's called. So it was just intriguing and fun and it's really yummy. So we were playing with all of that. And the plan was if we could get this still, we had been planning on doing that, getting a still, but that was way in the future, like maybe 5-10 years down the road was our thought. Well, COVID hit and we're like, okay, we pivot. We purchased this still. We start making hand sanitizer and thinking we'll just use this still after COVID and start making this distilled spirit. So the hand sanitizer got us through COVID. It was awesome in a number of ways. It brought my employees back to work instead of having to send everybody home. It gave you something to do because you're scared and you're helpless and so being busy is positive. And then we're busy doing something that's helping people because you couldn't find it. Like there was no toilet paper left on the planet. Hand sanitizer was nowhere to be found. You know what I mean? It's like
That's right.
Everything went nuts. And so the other really fascinating and cool part about that experience was watching and being able to be a part of the way people jumped in and helped others, which was super cool. So we had someone donate a bunch of money to give away hand sanitizer. They wanted to be anonymous. Everybody's thanking me, and I'm like, no, I didn't. It's not me. But how fun is that, right?
Yeah.
And so giving hand sanitizer to these first responders and these essential workers that didn't get to go home, I thought the man from the post office was going to cry because he's like, nobody remembers us. Everybody remembers the EMTs and the hospitals and the firefighters and the police officers. But anyway, so that was a lot of fun. But the best part was when we went downtown where we were giving away the hand sanitizer, people didn't know it was going to be free. And we intentionally didn't announce that because we only had so many bottles to give away because you can only make it so fast. So as they came through the line, they would try to pay us, and we're like, you know what? Someone's already paid for this. And they were like, no, you take this. So we were able to do that 4 times, 4 more times after that. Well, 3 more times after that. Because of people. That is so cool. Being a part of that experience and just watching this unfold. And I just got to be the one to handle it, right? I mean, that was such a moving experience and something I will never forget. Wound up, COVID finishes, we've got this beautiful still that sat in here collecting dust because the problem, which is an awesome problem to have, but our biggest struggle since we've opened has just been making the product fast enough. It's a 6 to 8 week, really about a 3-month process to get a batch made. Cannot speed that up. That's just how long it takes. So unless you have more tanks, you can't really go any faster than you're going. And so the problem was I was always running out of product that I needed to get more made of. I never had any left over to be able to put in the still to make something with. So the still sat there for 2 or 3 years, and finally we're like going, what are we doing? So we sold the still, and we may circle back to that at some point, but we needed the space to be able to make the mead. But the whole experience was just cool. It just was. I don't have another word for it, but
that is really, really cool. And it's interesting how something that was already in your business model got expedited because of COVID. You had the opportunity to experiment, do some good in the world, but then also realize, hey, this is not something
maybe
for us right now. We just got to get it out of here. So I love that even a challenging moment at times or something unexpected turns into really a learning lesson too, because you kind of figure it out as you go, and I love that. And that's what I think being an entrepreneur and business owner is all about. And I think having the realization that that's what you got to do and pivot and know when to make that decision. Right.
It was not an easy decision because that was such. I mean, I still think it's a great idea. I still think it could be awesome, but there's only so many hours, and you kind of stop and go, okay, I can split my time and energy and focus on doing both of these products, but I've already got a product that's on the market that I know I have demand for, that's doing well, that I can't meet the demand for. Why would I take that focus and energy and put it somewhere else when I'm
That's right.
Because you've only got so much, right? You can't do more.
They are really tough decisions, and you talked about this earlier, the analysis paralysis.
Yes.
In a way.
Goodness, yeah.
And making those decisions, and sometimes the easy decisions are the hard decisions.
Yes.
And pivoting back to yours. So thank you for sharing that with our listeners, because I think that's so critical and important, and so many of us don't realize that. But there is a difference between pivoting and then making the best decision for your business too.
Right.
So it's an all ever evolving thing, and maybe what is best now will not be best later,
Exactly.
and what worked before may not work now.
Right.
And being able to make those decisions, no matter how hard they are, to
Right.
realization,
And I
sometimes you
think
have to do trial and error.
another lesson that I've learned through all of that, it was expensive to buy that steel. It wasn't cheap. And then we had to do lots of rearranging and pull in other, outsiders, plumbers, electricians, others. So a lot of money went out.
Yeah.
And it's easy for me to stop and go, because what if I had that money? What if I hadn't spent that on that?
Yes.
What could I be doing? And it's really easy to look back at a decision and beat yourself up. And I
Yes.
think it's important to look back and learn. I'm not
Yeah.
saying not do that. But at the same time, yes, we spent a lot of money on the steel. Yes, if we had not made that decision, we could have spent it. But would I still be open? I don't know that.
That's
Is the
right.
hand? You know what I'm saying? I don't have answers to that. And I guess my point is, it's all a process, right?
Yeah.
So don't get. I have really had to mentally fight the inclination, I guess, to want to go, oh, why did I let that go on so long? Or why did I spend all this money on this tangent that wound up being the wrong direction for us to go in? And part of it is just process of learning. And that is valuable. And sometimes it costs money to learn those lessons.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey calls it a stupid tax. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
the steel was one of those, but you're going to pay some of those. And I
Yeah.
guess my point is, don't be so quick to beat yourself up, because if you don't do some of that, the bottom line is you're going to do some of that. You just
Yeah.
need to know that, and that's part
Yeah.
of it. And it's okay. It
Yeah.
really is okay. You just got to be quick to learn and pivot, so that that don't be so proud that you're not willing to go, this wasn't the best decision for us. This is not working. Like, I'll give you another example, and this wasn't a huge negative thing, but an example of that is there have been a few times we serve alcohol. We are not required by law to have food. Bars are, because we are a tasting room, we are not required to have food, but food and drink go together. So there have been a few times that we've brought people in to try to do food, and the idea is great and it's exciting. You get in here and you start doing it, and both times I've gotten to fairly quickly gotten to a place where I went, this just does not feel right. This is not who we are. This is not the direction that I wanted this to go in. All of a sudden, the focus is shifting to something other than what it was intended. I don't even know, you just kind of have this feeling, this is not the right direction. And then you have to make some decisions. Do I fire this dude? I like this guy. I don't want to fire him, and it's just difficult, but you learn that. And I kind of have to stop and go, I know with our business, we've spent a lot of time going, okay, who are we? And you see other people in the community doing really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, I like what they're doing. Maybe we should be doing some of that. And you tend to kind of explore that, especially at first when you're just getting started and trying to figure out who we are. I think we spend a lot of time exploring different avenues and seeing, but then I kind of stop and go, like Adam Morgan does such a great job with Blue Canoe. It is such it's just a cool business, right? He's got live music there all the time. And so we're like, hey, let's have music. Well, that's cool, and we do that some, but when you start doing it, you realize, you know what? That's who he is, and he is killing it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's who I have to be. We can support that and cheer them on, but that doesn't mean I have to pivot to do that. And so that took me a little while to figure out, you know what, let's figure out exactly who we are and be comfortable here. And that didn't happen overnight. It was a process. And I don't know if all businesses struggle with that, maybe because ours is a little unique. I feel like we finally have found our groove. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think they do, Jeri, in their own different way.
Right.
And I think you have to differentiate yourself. Anytime you follow any of these serial entrepreneurs that are on a massive scale, that's one thing. They're always looking for that. What makes you different? Differentiating factor.
Right.
But then you also have to make money.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And I think you have to stay true to who you are and your brand. We have lots of examples in our community who do just that. They have their identity. But you're right. Sometimes it doesn't come overnight, and you have to figure it out. And speaking of identity, I just think you have one of the most amazing brands that we have here. And the story to that is also interesting. Can you share with our listeners because you had to commit to this prior to opening.
Yes.
And now it has become very recognizable. You use it on obviously your bottles, and you've changed those up. But this was a commitment on your end prior to even opening the doors. Can you
Well,
share a little bit on that with our
yes.
listeners? Because I think it's a really neat story
Okay,
there
so
too.
you are a marketing person. That again was so not something I had done. You don't have to know marketing to teach kindergarten. You just got to be able to do cute stuff with a bulletin board and a hot glue gun, right? So that was new to me. And we went to Mavis Agency here in Tupelo when we were first starting because we felt like we needed a logo. That's what we went in to ask for. And we were connected with this very, very talented man who said, nope, you don't need a logo, you need a brand. I'm like, what is the difference? I don't know this stuff. But again, knowing your strengths and what you're not good at and finding the people that are good at what you aren't. So he basically said, no, this is why, explained it, and I'm like, okay, you're right. It was scary because developing that brand and hiring them to do this was a lot of money when we were nowhere near a place where we were making any money. This was before anything was opened, even before all of our permits and things were in place, before it was legal for us to actually start selling it. We were putting these pieces together. But I will be honest with you, I think that has been, and for someone that's not in the business world and didn't know this ahead of time. Now, my husband may have. He probably knew more of this than I did, but I think that's been pivotal in our establishing ourselves, not just in Tupelo, but beyond. We went, before we had even opened our doors, we were working on it. We were renovating. We were trying to get things done. We went to a conference, a mead conference, and we're from Mississippi. It's a national conference. I love Mississippi with all of my heart, but we tend to not have, people don't always have the most positive perception of us that have never been here. You know what I'm talking about. And then I have this cute Southern accent, but also people go, oh, she must not be very intelligent because listen to her accent. So you've got all these stigmas that you have to overcome. Being able to hand them my business card that looked so professional and was so well done with a brand, with a name that was not just positive and applicable to Tupelo, Mississippi, but would be the same no matter where it showed up, that gave us instant credibility that we later earned, but it gave us an opportunity to earn it. Does that make sense? They were ready to discredit us because we, along with a lot of other people there, were fixing to start a meadery. And a lot, just like any other industry, lots of people try to start this. They either don't make it, they don't get it started, or they don't make it long. So these people that were already in this business, they hear this a ton, right? So they're going, oh, yeah. And then to be a female, which I don't think was a huge issue, but it was some, to be from Mississippi, yeah, y'all are cute. But when I could hand them that business card that we already had a logo, we already had a brand, even though it was an unknown brand, gave us instant credibility and gave us an ability to be in that market space that otherwise I think we would have been ignored. And that was money we had to spend, but it was an investment well made, without question. And then what else it helped us do is because that brand was created before anything else got started, we could keep that brand consistent with our decor, with our bottles, with our glasses, even to the little bowls that we put on the table with the tasting crackers in it that have the honeycomb on the outside. I mean, it carried itself. So that investment was worth every penny. It hurt, it was painful, it was scary, but it was worth every penny and has paid it. We have regained that money at probably 10 times over because of what it brought. And as a person that's not in the business world, I would have had no idea. So do that.
Yeah.
Do that. Find that person.
Your
that
first
is valuable.
impression.
Exactly.
Take everything else aside. It's like you said, all of a sudden you were able to make an impression that was the best impression.
Right.
And that is your brand. That's what it's for. It gives your personality. And so many people, it's kind of like, I've heard this a million times. You can have a great product, but if you don't have great brand or great marketing, it's just going to come to the wayside.
That's right.
And that's what makes or breaks it. And especially now, you're not in this space, but like online with online retailers, it's all about that. You can have a great product, but if you don't have marketing that touches people, connects with people, makes them want to buy you, it's not happening. No matter how great you are.
That's exactly right.
So anyway, it comes to all of that collectively. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
I thought that was very valuable
Yes.
and very unique and different. A lot of people will not go out. That is not their even top 10 priorities when establishing a business, is their marketing and their brand, but it is so essential.
Well, the problem is when you're trying to get a business started, there's so many things you got to buy.
Yeah.
So much money going out. And at first, nothing's coming back
That's
in,
right.
And so you look at things and you go, what can I do that I don't have to pay somebody else to do?
Yes.
And that's one of those things that looks like it's something you can do.
Yes.
And I have met, in the mead world, I've met lots of people opening meaderies, and they've got a great product, but their branding and their labels and the way it looks like something they did at home. And
right.
And the problem is it discredits them before they even have an opportunity for someone to taste what's in their bottle. And I am very thankful that ours worked out this way. Again, my husband is the serial entrepreneur. He knew enough to get us at least moving in that direction. And then the people at Mavis and Paul Mitchell, who's ultimately, he's not with them anymore, but he was the talented brain behind all of the branding. And he listened. I had ideas, but mine tended to look more like a kindergarten classroom than this. But that was so valuable, and bringing that knowledge and expertise in that I didn't have to have. It was expensive and it was scary. And sometimes you're thinking, this may not be the best place to spend this money because I still got to get tanks and I still got to buy lights to get installed. And there's so much, but it was worth the money, because without it, all that other money spent would have potentially been wasted. It certainly wouldn't have been utilized like it could have been. So
Absolutely.
Very, very valuable.
So you've touched on this just a little bit throughout our conversation, but let's dive into this portion of it, relationships.
Yes.
How important has that been for you and Queen's Reward and everything that you've accomplished thus far?
Well, business is built on relationships. It absolutely is, which was a struggle when I first opened, because I had been, so the world of education, we love our teachers and teachers are amazing. But you're in a little bubble by yourself, because you get to school in the morning and you're not going out and seeing people at lunch, and at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, you're spent 5 o'clock. And then people think everybody goes home at 3. No, they're there till 5 and 6 getting ready for the next day. You get home, you got your family. So you're kind of in this little cocoon and you're not out there meeting. And so that was somewhat new to me when I got out here. It was fun. I loved it. Of course, I'm not shy. So meeting people was a lot of fun. But I have learned that's what makes this work. And it's what's fun about this too, is the other part of it. So especially with our business, we are unique in that we are literally competition to no one. We are not a threat to anyone else in town. What we do is just running alongside what other people are doing. So I can invite a food truck out here. And we do that when we have events and we know we're going to have people here and they need food. I don't want to have to cook for all these people. They're great at it. You guys come do what you do best. I'll do what I do best. We partner and it just works. And there's so many instances like that. And then not only that, being a supporter and encourager of other businesses, it's just fun to watch other people be successful. It really is. And so being a part of stuff like our CDF, I tell you, one of our best relationships that has been so pivotal to our relationship, our business, has been our Convention and Visitors Bureau. Of course, we have a business that lends itself to visitors coming in town. Somebody that probably, I don't know, I can't think of another business, but another business, it may not be the same exactly. But they have been so supportive and so quick to tell our story that just a couple of weekends ago, we had the travelers, the visitor and convention centers from all over the state of Mississippi were all in here at one time. Well, that was awesome. So we got to make, because of our first connection, it led to a bunch of other connections, which gave us opportunities to get to know people in other parts of the state. Well, guess what? They're going back to their liquor stores going, why aren't you carrying this? I was there, So inviting us to come to their areas. We're being invited to festivals in other communities. But a lot of that starts from that one little relationship you don't realize is going to be that valuable. Another example of that is we're a part of the Mississippi Restaurant and Hospitality Association, where I'm not really a restaurant. We do hospitality in a way. But being a part of that organization, for one thing, helps me know what's going on in this industry, not just in Tupelo, but in the whole state. Gives you connections. If I have a question about something in this world, they can help me find those answers. Again, it also gives you credibility. I'm in a position, because of the fact that my business is a little different, I can walk into a restaurant, but I don't own a restaurant. I'm not a chef. So I have somewhat of a connection. I'm kind of in their world, but not exactly. They're busy. They don't have time to sit and talk to just anybody walking in the door. I totally understand that. So having that connection, being part of that same group, kind of helps break down barriers. It's just a win-win. It really is. And it's hard because here's the struggle for me. I love that part of it. I love meeting people. I love talking to people. I love networking with people. I love finding ways that we can make our businesses work together. That's all fun and good. Problem is, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when it's time to go to this meet and greet or this get together, like, I am tired.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go home. I've been here all day. It's been a crazy day. So that's really where the struggle is you just got to kind of go, no, just go. Just making those, even if you're not up to staying for a long time that day, making those connections makes a world of difference. That facial recognition, knowing. And then once you've kind of been in the trenches together, gone through stuff together, just knowing what somebody else is going through, saying, man, I'm so excited for y'all. And it's just encouraged. I always leave feeling better than I did when I got there. Does that make sense? So sometimes I have to make myself get out there and go. It is so worth it. It really is. And then just being a part of the community matters. And Tupelo, frankly, is a pretty special place. It really is. It really is.
It really is. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely relate to that because there are many instances where, like you said, you don't feel like going or you feel like it's not valuable, but it really is.
Right.
People see you showing up.
Right.
You develop relationships, you grow them, they get to know you, you get to know them, and you never know who is going to be that changing factor.
Right.
And who is it that they know that you can benefit from, or vice versa.
Right.
You bring a lot of value. And this brings me to my next area, because you mentioned it a little bit throughout the conversation as well, is how do you juggle everything your family, your personal life, and then this business, and then being a professional with your relationships, outside of the work that you do?
It's hard. It really is. And here is what people need to know. You cannot do it all.
Yes.
I think it's better now than it used to be. When I was younger, women were, and men may have been too, but I'm just relating from where I am. I think we felt like we're supposed to be super mom at home, and we're supposed to have these amazing careers, and we're supposed to be involved in everything going on in our church or in our women's clubs or whatever we're a part of. We got to be the homeroom mom. There's so much pressure to be the superwoman, and the reality is you can't be that. And so I think by trying to be that, you're literally setting yourself up for failure, because you may be able to keep that, walk that tightrope for a few minutes, but you're going to fall. There is just no way. So I guess it's just a constant juggling act. So a great example, about a week ago, Jeff and I were both in town. So we are very active in in politics in a lot of ways, but specifically in the state. And my husband's business does lots of, he's involved in lots of federal, because he does government contract work. So he's involved on the national level, probably more than I am for my business. But my business matters that I know people in the state, lawmakers, because we have and we continue to work to change laws in Mississippi to make this business easier to do, because it's just time for some of those things to be updated and changed. It's not that we're mad at anybody, but we have to be that voice because no one else is going to be. So we're very deliberate about that and work hard to be that person. But that means when these people are in town and they're raising money, they need to see my face. If I'm going to go to them and go, look, I need this law changed because this is going to make my business, they're going to be like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. We've got to be a part of this community, not to manipulate, but because we care, right? So it was an evening. Someone was coming to town that I needed to go to this fundraiser. I needed to be there. My daughter, who's 15, was having her last softball game of the season. Okay, what do you do? And so my husband, Jeff's like, Jeri, you really need, because it matters for him to go to that one for the state, but it's not going to make that big of a difference in his business as it would in mine. So which one do we go to? What do we do? So we're having this discussion, and it's a difficult decision. But I finally looked at him and I said, you know what? 10 years from now, who's going to remember that I was in that crowd? Is it going to be the politician, or is it going to be my daughter? I think it's going to be my daughter. So we made the joint decision it still mattered that we had a presence at the fundraiser, so we just divided and conquered. So I went to the softball game. He went to the fundraising event. The good ending to the story was the softball game didn't last terribly long. We were able to get finished. I took my daughter in her softball outfit. We headed straight over to the fundraiser. So I got to go in and say hey and tell him. And he winds up talking to my daughter about the softball game. So it was, so we probably remembered more that I was there because of that, right?
Yep.
But I guess my point is sometimes you have to divide and conquer. There are times you got to make hard decisions. And then, there are other times a few weeks earlier, not to say that I'm super mom, just to be completely transparent. A few weeks earlier, Jeff, my husband was in Washington, D.C. doing his job. He has to be there. I'm here. I had a ton of stuff going on here at the meadery that I had to do. I could not pass that to someone else. My daughter still got softball games. Guess what? You find friends and family and go, hey, can you pick up this ball for me? Explain it to her. Obviously, that's not the norm, that's the exception, but that's just a reality of where we are. There's times that I can't say, I'm going to give this up to go to the softball games. There's times that I can. We are honest with her, she gets it, and you just lean on the people you can lean on, but no, you're not going to get it all. You're not going to be able to, and it is okay. It really, really is.
Jeri, you put that so beautifully. I love it, and that leads me to my next question. Being a woman and having to juggle all this and that, and then the stereotypes and misconceptions, have you ever experienced any type of gender bias? And then I'm going to go a step further. What has it been like to open a business? What has it been like to opening a business, what many people would consider later in life, or midlife?
Right.
You're not in your 20s or 30s,
right.
You are, in your 50s.
Right.
How has that been like? So it's a twofold thing.
Yeah,
there.
So it's interesting. People have asked me that fairly often because the alcohol industry is a very male-dominant industry historically. That is shifting, but I will be completely honest and tell you, I don't really feel like I have had a lot of issues with the fact that I'm a female, which I'm not sure why, but I just haven't. People have been very open, very accepting, just kind of like, okay, come on, or even excited in instances. So I think that's awesome. I'm glad to be able to say that because that's not what people expect me to say, but that is the truth. Part of that may be that I was a little older getting started. I think there's some respect that comes with age, right? Whether it's earned or not, hopefully it's earned. But I do think that that's true. But I think a lot of that, I think starting a business later in life is frightening. In some ways, it's great because I'm not knee deep in diapers and daycare and stuff. So in some ways, that frees you a little to do some of this. But at the same time, I look back and go, man, if I could have started this, look where I could have got, where I could be by, so there's all of those emotions that go into it. I think too, I wonder how much the fact that, first off, I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. We had a great brand already established that we were proud of. We knew we had a good, not just a fun product, but we've worked very hard to make sure that the product that we're making is of the highest quality. Our mission statement is to have a world-class product and experience that is uniquely Southern in its makeup. So we embrace the fact that we're from the South. I'm not ashamed of my Southern accent. We use all Mississippi honey in our products. We source as much from Mississippi in the South as we can when we're making our product. But that solid brand, that confidence, and knowing that we're doing something that is of the highest quality, even if they haven't figured it out yet, the person that you're meeting. And the confidence that comes with just maturity, I think has played a big part. I won't say that there haven't been struggles but I haven't been able to, there's been very, very seldom, if any, moments that I've walked away from a scenario that I've thought, okay, they just totally did that because I'm a woman, or that just totally did not go well because I'm a Southerner. I think I've probably struggled with that maybe more than I have the female side of things, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, but I usually can overcome that. In fact, one guy I met, this was kind of funny, he's like, you're so not what I thought I would meet by meeting a Southern person. You talk so fast. I thought everybody down there talked so slow. And I'm like, well, there are some that do, but anyway, it was just funny. But so I think it's just being real, but we had done our homework. We had done what we needed to before we stepped out that door, and I think that went a long way to eliminating potential issues. Is that a good way to put it?
What advice would you give to a woman who is already established in her career, who might feel the nudge to pivot or try something new?
What are you waiting on? Go for it. But again, don't do your homework and surround yourself with people that are going to be able to pick up where your weaknesses are. Don't do it. Surely if they've got their own business, they have figured out there's things they're good at and things they're not, and be wise enough to bring in those help. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions. It's really okay not to know everything. It really is. And people that are ahead of you in your journey, a lot of times are glad to walk up and go, oh, no, I've messed that up. Don't do what I did. Let me show you. Or here's what we figured out. I think people are sometimes happy to share that, just because you don't want all those stupid taxes to be for nothing, right? If you can help somebody else, why not?
For sure.
Yeah.
So here's 2 questions, yin and the yang.
Okay.
How do you measure success? But then also, how do you stay motivated when maybe you're not having a good day there?
Yeah, that's oh gosh, that's a roller coaster, right? That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, I'm still open, so there's one measure of success. The doors are still open, and I still have people coming in. But that's true. You're being viable. You're not just surviving, but thriving. So that is obviously, the numbers are a measure of success. I think another big measure of success is I'm having fun, right? This is now every day is not fun. I would be lying to you if I told you it is. And there are a lot of days that I will just feel frustrated and defeated, and why is this happening, or why is this not happened? And it is hard to not get discouraged and not get frustrated, but those days is when you just lean on those people around you. And typically, especially here, I've got a fairly small team, and they are precious. We're family. And we just kind of lean on each other to support each other. And that's a big part of surrounding yourself with those people that have the gifts that you don't have. And then just looking at the big picture. One day, it was my mother's favorite thing to say, one day at a time. Jeri, you can't do more than that anyway. Just do one day. So some days aren't going to be fun, and they're not going to be great, but you just get through it, and the next day you wake up and go, well, that really wasn't as dark as it seemed yesterday. We're going to be all right, Yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah.
What are your future goals and aspirations, and what steps are you taking to achieve them?
So
what's next?
Oh my gosh, so much. So our biggest, the goal we're focusing on the most for 2023 is we want to make sure that we're trying to meet demand. So right now we do great in the tasting room for the most part, but we have we have orders for liquor stores that we sometimes can't fill because we just can't make it fast enough. So that we're really trying to focus on not only getting the product out in a more timely manner as best we can control, but also managing the inventory that we have to meet those demands. Because I have been approached by businesses, liquor stores, restaurants in every state surrounding us, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, even Tennessee, Louisiana. There have been businesses that have all reached out, and my answer to them has been, I would love to start distributing, but I can't meet the demand in Mississippi yet, so I don't want to make promises that I can't keep, right? So that's what we're reaching for, is to grow our production and to grow the management of the inventory that we have so that we can reach those goals and go into those markets. The other big goals that we have is to continue to work with our state legislature to put laws in place, or to change laws to make it easier to do this business in the state of Mississippi, so that other people can come in and we can just elevate this whole industry within the state. So we're very fortunate that we have a voice, and that we do have these connections on the state level, and that they're listening, and we've gained their respect because of our hard work and because of our diligence in following the laws that they've already got. So the goal is not to fight them, it's to work with them to see how we can make this work better for both of us. And so those are our 2 biggest focuses. It's just to grow production, make sure that we're meeting the demand that we have, and paving a way to not only make it easier for us to do our jobs, but anybody coming along behind us. Let's make this, why can't Mississippi be one of the next states that has a huge revenue in alcohol tourism. Look at Kentucky and California. Holy smokes, how much money are those states bringing in? We're a foodie destination. People are already coming down here to eat our delicious Southern food. We need beverages to be right along with that, and I think it's coming. I really do. So
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. If you could tell one thing to your younger self, what advice would you give?
I tell my daughter this often. You are smarter and more capable than you realize. Don't underestimate yourself. At least try. What have you got to lose? Don't be afraid. Get out there, try it, push the limits, and no one's going to be more shocked than you are at how much you can achieve, because we are our own worst enemies, right? We're constantly second guessing ourselves. We're constantly doubting ourselves. Just go for it. I mean, you're not going to get it all right, but you will get way more right than you think you're going to. I guess is kind of what I wish I could tell myself. Don't be so scared. Just go. You got this. You can do it.
Jeri, this has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I hope the listeners got as much out of it as I have here talking to you today and learning more about your journey. So thank you so much for making time to be here with us.
Thank you for letting me be a part of this. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to watch.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we can't wait to see what the future holds for you.
Thank you. I look forward to it too, and we'll be cheering each other on.
Fantastic. Thank you.